What's going on, everyone? So, the Los Angeles Lakers are still active in trying to upgrade this roster, right? Luka wants to contend now. LeBron James wants to contend now, obviously, especially with LeBron James at his stage of his career. Rob Pelinka has even talked about how, he's going to continue to be aggressive. He's looking for now moves, as he put it. And according to Sports Illustrated, one player in particular that the Lakers are interested in, but Celtics are kind of, weighing potentially making the move or not, and that is Sam Hauser. So if Sam Hauser does become available and they actually do look to move him, that the Los Angeles Lakers would be a team that is looked to be aggressive in order to acquire him, that the Lakers are kind of keeping an eye on it in that potential situation. Boston has essentially just torn their team down, torn their roster down, and may look to continue to do that. They just recently shedded more salary to get under the second apron, right, and are looking for other moves. But a couple things about this trade, if it was to happen, right? Sports Illustrated talked about how, hey, this would make a ton of sense because of his sharpshooting, right? He's a career over 40% three-point shooter, and we'll touch on all that stuff. And I agree with all the points in the article, but a couple things that we got to keep in mind. One, Lakers are still right there to the cap threshold or the apron threshold. So the Boston Celtics have been making moves to shed salary. Right now, the Lakers have a ton of expiring contracts and all kinds of stuff where Sam Hauser, he's somebody that is going into the first year of his new extension. He's cheap though, right? So he's making basically 10 million this year, just under 11 million next, just under 12 million the year after that, and then 12.5 million in 2028, 2029. And he'd still only be 31 years old, right? He won't be 28 till December, 2 months in. So, contract-wise, everything, he's locked in long-term. He's on a cheap contract by, a guy that could be a role player coming off the bench, be a shooter. You talk about a guy 6'7", 6'8", slot in 2 through 4 for you on many occasions, kind of more that 2-3 spot. And again, gives you just the shooting that this Lakers team could really use, especially alongside LeBron, Luka, Austin Reeves, right, to just have that outlet and that real sharpshooter. Hauser is a guy that, played a role in the championship roster, won a championship with Boston. So he's a guy that you can trust in moments, a guy that you can trust out there on the basketball court, has the experience, and a guy that you could bring in, right? So question would be, one, what does Boston want for him? Right? I don't imagine that they're just going to kind of give him away, especially at his age. And I'm sure that there'd be competition for him because, he is talk about a sharpshooter, he is that. And a lot of teams would love to have a guy like him. So it really just boils down to what is the cost? But two, the Lakers couldn't, or at least right now, unless you get a third team involved or something like that, wouldn't be able to shed salary for Boston at the moment. I mean, they could shed technically a little bit, right? But let's say you went to them and you were like, hey, we'll just do a Dalton Connect for Hauser swap. Yeah, they might do that because they clear salary and they get a young kind of new Hauser that they can kind of grow and develop this year. But, right, Lakers can't take on that salary. So Lakers would then have to go do a salary dump trade. So maybe you could do something in the mix and maybe it's like a 3-team deal. Because, again, Boston, you've seen this offseason, have valued trying to get off of guys. They've taken lesser deals just to clear salary and kind of just, they want to tear this down because they know Jason Tatum isn't going to be here this year. This year is going to kind of be that impasse year. And then we'll have the cap space and everything we need to really go make some pushes next offseason, right? So to me, I'm all for going and getting Hauser if you can, but it's just what would it take? How would you kind of approach that? Are you maybe trying to add another piece? But then again, what does that cost, right? They do have a Fernay Simon stuff. Personally, I'd stay away. Obviously, I'd love a Derek White, but if he was on the market, the amount of offers, because he's one of those guys that's plug and play for every team in basketball, right? If the Lakers could get a Derek White and a Sam Hauser, I'd do that all day. Just realistically speaking, though, I don't think that that's possible. Never say never. You never know. But, I think it's unlikely. There we go. That's probably the better way to phrase it. But Sam Hauser, I do think is a realistic target. I do think it's somebody that's a possibility. In a perfect world, you're basically turning Dalton Connect in a Maxi Kleba into Hauser, and you're shedding $5 million off the books, clearing up a roster spot, right? I would love to use Sam Hauser as the kind of salary dump consolidation trade that the Lakers have been looking for and have been interested in making. So that way, now you could go and make that move, end up landing Sam Hauser, clear up a roster spot, maybe potentially get like an Al Horford or a DeAnthony Melton, especially if the Warriors do that sign and trade with Chicago. They might not have the capability of signing those guys. So then now it's not like, now you're not trading just for a Sam Hauser, you're trading for Sam Hauser plus plus a an Al Horford or something like that, or if Nikola Vucevic gets bought out or whomever, right? Like there's options in that regard for the Lakers. So, but again, Boston, given what we've seen that they want to do this offseason, I don't know if they would be willing to work that out. Like I said, you might have to include a third team, but even then it's like, the Lakers aren't going to give up Connect and their first for a Sam Hauser, right? Like I said, maybe a Dalton Connect for a Sam Hauser, because again, they'd be able to clear salary off their books, not only this season, but going forward, and kind of get a guy that they can grow and develop as like their next Sam Hauser, who's 4 years younger. Right? So that might be something that they could potentially be interested in, because they're getting a young player that makes sense for now and the future for them, but also clears the salary that they need for now and the future, right? Like, so it puts them in a interesting spot. But again, the Lakers would then have to figure out a salary dump trade and teams would now know, like, you have no choice. You have to do it because you can't go into the season over the apron. So now it's like, what are you giving up? Right? Maybe you can find a team that would take, Kleba or Gabe Vincent or something like that, and you give up a second, right? Like, cool, that would be awesome. I wouldn't hate that. You kind of clear a bunch of salary. Maybe you could sign a guy or two. Maybe then if you have like $10 million in cap space now at that point, maybe then you can go to like an Horford and be like, hey, we could do X, Y, and Z or whatever, right? Just would give the Lakers options and flexibility. But again, that's just another step that they'd have to make in order to get Sam Hauser, and giving up other assets and stuff like that. Again, I wouldn't hate it if they can figure that out, especially Hauser and what he can provide shooting-wise. I think he would slot in beautifully alongside a Luka Doncic and a LeBron James. And also, especially like something that I've talked about, if you end up trading Dalton Connect, which I do think is going to happen at some point, I really do. I think he's checked out. I think it's best for him. I think the Lakers, they've already traded him once, so they're more than open to trading him. We know that. And I just think he's going to be out of the rotation. I think it's time to move on. It sucks. It's unfortunate. He was a rookie last year, had some real bright spots. I would love to keep him if possible, but I just think realistically at this point, it's looking more and more likely like at some point Dalton Connect's going to be on another roster, right? But if you trade Dalton Connect, it'd be nice to get somebody that can come in and kind of provide what you'd be looking for from Dalton Connect. Sam Hauser is that kind of guy. Give you the shooting, give you the floor spacing, give you, he can create a little bit for himself, create a little bit for others, right? He's more of just that kind of catch and shoot guy, but also he knows, accepts, and plays that role. Where Dalton Connect, I feel like you're kind of doing him a disservice, slotting him in solely into that role. Right? I do think Dalton Connect has the capability of being much more than just a spot up catch and shoot 3-point shooter. But I've talked about, like, on this Lakers team, that's probably all he's ever going to be able to be. Right? Because you have Luka, LeBron, and Austin Reeves at least this year. And then even if LeBron does leave next year, you still have Luka and Austin Reeves and DeAndre Ayton, right? And all these other guys. Like, Dalton Connect's probably not going to get the opportunities that he could get, especially on a team like Boston this year, where they'll kind of need him to create and do all kinds of stuff. He just might get more opportunity in Boston or elsewhere, rather than kind of doing him a disservice, whereas Sam Hauser makes more sense as like kind of playing that role, because that's the role that he's played and kind of built his career on, just being that spot up, catch, shoot, 3-point shooter, guy that can shoot off the dribble, all of that. So anyway, let's get into the stats here. Another big thing is he's a guy that plays, right? Played 71 games last year, 79 games the year before that, and then 80 games the year before that. But 71 games last season. He started in 19 of the 71 games, 21.7 minutes per game. So again, kind of that rotation role player guy. 6.7 attempts, shot 45.1% from the field on 5.6 attempts. So almost every one of his shots were from three, except for one. He shot 41.6%. He's a career 42% 3-point shooter on 5 attempts a game. His worst 3-point shooting season was last season at 41.6%. Like, Think about that for a moment. His worst three-point shooting season was last year at 41.6%, right? The previous low was his second year in which he shot 41.8% on 4.2 attempts. So, I mean, his worst season shooting the basketball is 41.6% from the. He'd literally be our like best. Well, I think Rui was like around there too, but he'd basically be one of our, if not our best 3-point shooter right out the gate immediately. But 2-point range, one attempt, he shot 64%. He had an EFG of 62.7%, which is the second lowest of his career. An EFG, efficient field goal percentage, is 62.7%, right? Like, that's crazy. He was actually 100% from the foul line, but on 0.2 attempts. He's primarily a 3-point shooter. 3.2 rebounds, an assist, we'll round up, a steal, half a block, and 8.5 points per game. If run through his per 36 real quick. Per 36 doesn't tell you everything, but kind of gives you an idea of like if he played a real starting role and whatnot. He'd be 14 points, 5 rebounds, 1.5 assists, a steal, and half a block per game. So again, if you can make it happen, make it happen. I love it, but let me know your thoughts and opinions down in the comments. Make sure to like the video. As always, it lets me know that you enjoy this video. Make sure to subscribe to the channel. See you guys in the next one.